Welcome to Dubai Future Horizons Special Edition, live from Dubai Future Forum 2024. Horizons connects you with researchers, foresighters, futurists, scientists all year round, so you can grow your tribe, you can ask your questions, enjoy live music and mindfulness, and hopefully then meet the community here in person at the forum. Horizons is presented by Dubai Future Foundation and Remote Daily. My name is Felix Zeltner. I am a journalist and the founder of Remote Daily, and it's a huge privilege to be back at Dubai Future Forum and live and experience this ambitious event and its goal to diversify foresight. And for the first time, I think, this year, play takes a center stage at the forum, an entire floor of playful interaction, envisioning the future of museums, engaging in games, stepping into new territory with the mind and body is happening right here. And my guests today on Horizons created this experience, and I'm so excited to welcome them here to the stage. First up, a creative director and director of imagination. That's such a cool job title. I want that job title. Director of Imagination at Radar, a global collaborative of futurists and foresighters, Caitlin Keeley. Caitlin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Felix.
How are you?
I'm awesome.
You have been,
everything is an exciting blur.
You have been literally playing for hours up there, is that right? Yeah.
Exactly. Someone asked me how I was preparing, and I was like, to have fun, just staying relaxed, I guess.
But it's good to sit now, I guess, because you were like running, playing, helping people to find their playful spirit. So I'm glad you're here taking a break from play to talk about the future of play. And next to you is a futurist trend forecaster and social scientist and the founder of Futurist Friends, based in Lisbon, Sarah Owen. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, Felix. Thanks for having us.
So this is, I would say, 3 countries, almost 3 continents. You were based out of Toronto, is that
Yep.
right? New York and Lisbon, meeting here in Dubai. When was the last time you actually played before you were here, Sarah? When was the last time you were actually engaged in play?
Probably with my son the day before I took off. We were playing, with his toys, and I kind of don't love that it takes children and adolescents to kind of activate that within us. So I'm embarrassed that it's only through him that it's coming to life, because I think the activation and workshop we did reminds me that it's so easy to deprioritize play in a world of productivity when you're super busy. So I wish I had a more fun example of me playing, but with my son before I left.
Yep, same with me. Last night with my kids who are here right now, that's when I play.
Yeah.
And that's when I get really exhausted. Caitlin, how's up for you? When was the last time you played?
Well, I also, when we did the report, this was one of the questions, and that we all went through and answered. And my answer was also about my son, Jarvis, who is Radar's youngest member.
How old?
He's 9. I have to get it right because but what I really appreciated when the first time I answered this question was that initially you might think, when did I play a game? But upon reflection, I realized that my relationship with my son is playful in our conversations. So we have an ongoing imagination world and conversation where we ask each other questions. So it's like we're playing all the time. Huh. And then I'll also say that I'm drawn to playful people and imaginative people who are like that in their lives. And I had a vision. I saw on the internet people putting googly eyes into trees by painting beach balls white with little blacks on them. And I was like, I want to do that. I live in an apartment so I can see trees. And I did like a little render of the tree I had in mind and sent it to my best friends. And they all immediately replied, yes. Like, when's the time? Let's schedule it in. So that's also one of the most
That's
recent times I
fascinating.
played.
You have a lot of playful friends, but also mean that we also have time for play. It just has to be
It's the spice of
presented
life.
to us. And you were just talking about a report. So for everybody watching, listening, what is that report that you just mentioned?
So, Radar publishes reports. I was gonna say quarterly, but we ain't like that. We published in the last year the Future of Play, which is a more playful future, and that we explored. What if we bring play to all kinds of things? What does that look like, and how might that make the world a better place? You can find that report online.
URL?
Link in the chat.
You have your own URL, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Do you know the URL?
RadarDAO.xyz. You can find it there.
All right, RadarDAO.
That was a test.
Yeah. And
not an
you were
easy
looking at me like, what are you doing? I found a quote in this report that I found really interesting. Play is the ultimate expression of freedom for its own sake. Quote by David Graeber. But I was also wondering how you actually define play, because you're Foresighters, you're not David Graeber. So what is your own definition, Sarah? How do you define it?
Well, I think through one of our archetypes, which resonates with me the most, which was the enchantress. When we were researching and writing about that, that really struck a chord, because it's about, through that lens of viewing play, is about finding the magic in the mundane. And I think when you ask questions like, when's the last time you played, people kind of have these have this way of categorizing it as in like, well, what's a kid's activity? And so I really like the enchantress and that idea of playing through finding beauty in the boring. And so I think through that process, through the Radar report of research and writing it with the team and the community, I kind of had a bit of a paradigm shift myself. So now I definitely view play as in something that I have agency over, that I don't just have to do with my child or in a structured way. And so for me, it's changing. And I think it's an intentional practice that you have to kind of come back to remind yourself to do that. But I think then it comes habitual. And so I can definitely find myself kind of just swimming in moments that people might find boring or mundane, and actually finding them quite special.
Finding the magic. And it reminds me of what you just talked about with the trees. You found the magic in the mundane, and your friends were like, I'm in. How do you define it, though, Caitlin?
I was going to say, my answer is very similar to Sarah's. And I think, there's a lot of things that I've reflected on when I joined the Radar community, and I could, as a creative person, it was so immediately invigorating for a number of reasons. It's so densely packed with incredible signals. It's a global community, and I'm deeply collaborative, so that energy coming from curious people from all around the world. But I think for me, the playful mindset that I really see as like Radar as like a case study of that is like, it's in all of the ways that we are with each other, how we approach what we make, and I see it over and over leading to insights that we would not have gotten to if we were playing within the traditional confines and structures that many of us typically find ourselves in.
I found you both through Discord. You both have Discord channels for your respective communities, and I thought of Discord as this like technical tool, kind of mundane, kind of boring. And then I go onto your Discords and I see there's play happening all over. And I loved especially, and I've shared this with so many people, that you talk about gardening on Discord.
Yeah, signal gardening.
Gardening through signals. It's playful how you look at this, how you look at using the technology. And the other thing that I found fascinating about you both is many people that are here at the forum or in the Horizons community are people that crunch data, people that develop scenarios based on solid things, even math, policy reports, patents, like things that you can find and hold on to. And in your work, you look at a lot of things that I find very hard for foresight or futurism, emotions and and feelings. And it's also something I think a lot of people who work in Foresight don't even want to go into, because it's like this space that, yeah, you can't really base it on something. There's like, it's another completely different kind of thing. And it's tricky. So why do you pick these like big emotional topics to future on?
That's a good question. I mean, the first report was very difficult to do. It was a future in sync, and so studying why society, systems, ourselves are out of synchronization. So that one was even more kind of qualitative and social sciencey, wasn't it? It was a hard one to unpack, but I'll let you cover why we
I mean, I think one of the things that we found through activities like collaging the future with people, which is one of the activities we do, but we believe in the future mundane, and that is this idea that like, and we find it very helpful for connecting people. Like, it's interesting what happens when regular people, and I say regular people as in like not Foresight practitioners, but I was going to point to my sleeve, but I'm not wearing my Radar shirt anymore. But at Radar, we believe that the future belongs to those who think about it. And what happens is when we imagine the future, then we're like on the path to making that future real. And what's been happening is that the future is been thinking about by a couple billionaires, maybe a few sci-fi people, right? But we don't just want to live in their future, right? We want to live in a future that all of us have imagined and have a piece in. And we believe that fundamentally that will be a better future because more and more and more people have participated in it. So the future mundane is, and to come back to feelings, is like when we have found that when you bring in sensory elements, textures, feelings, we talk about futures that you can bring your favorite sweater to. When we do that, it takes off the sheen of the sleek sci-fi roboto future, and it becomes a place that people can imagine they're going to be there with their aunt or their dog, and it's a real future, and that helps people imagine that it's a place where they belong to.
And you also just did a love fest.
Yeah, Love Fest
Not
was
something
the best.
a lot of futurists
Love Fest
do,
was
I would say.
beautiful, and I was talking to people earlier saying what I keep finding is every time we do these reports, like you said, Future in Sync, and then Play Report, how it made you reflect on your own relationship with play, like every single time I find it influencing the way that I experience my own life as well. And Love Fest, and we did 3 months of exploring a future in love and what that might look like if everything was driven with love as its decision making and motivation and everything. And it's unbelievable what it unlocked. Like, we were rethinking economies motivated by love, and it was very, very exciting. Passionate.
Back to the not so fun parts about playing. In the report, you mentioned a 3-headed monster: cultural baggage, capitalistic expectations, and power dynamics. So what is this monster exactly doing to play? Please help me understand.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of us are I was going to say recognizing, but I think for many of us it's like feeling. We can feel the effects of like the market, the pressure, like we can feel it in our own lives. We can feel the commodification of things. We can feel like the business efficiency and like profitability. We can feel that influencing like culture and our own lives. And things like play just run so counter to that. Like, what's the ROI on play? Well, I could probably pitch it to you, but I think for people's individual experiences is like, it's slow. It's not something that we can rush. It's not something that you can like scroll into. And so there's a lot of these things like, you know, we talk about the three-headed monster is like, there's a lot of things that we've internalized that are acting as barriers to our humanness, I think.
So the cultural baggage of I'm not allowed to play over a certain age.
Yeah, or like I
Yeah,
shouldn't be
definitely.
sitting still because I should be doing something
Okay.
more productive. Like, why are you thinking that when you're like in your home?
Right, the power dynamic of you're not allowed to play here,
Yeah.
and the capitalistic expectations, as you just mentioned.
Yeah.
This is not fun and games here.
That's right.
Yeah, you
Time
have
is
to-
money,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and I feel like with play as well, it's like I said, it's deprioritized, and I really think it's because it's also hard to measure, and therefore perhaps if there were, I'm talking in kind of systems of like corporations or productivity, if there was a way to really trace back how powerful it can be in its capacity to bring or improve employee well-being or performance or things like that, it might be taken a bit more seriously. But it's, again, those intangibles that it's hard to really measure and grasp and therefore activate or prioritize in your life because of it. So that the systems and structures that kind of confine us, I think, are doing it a disservice because they don't realize how overall impactful it can really be, not just for our well-being and ourselves, but for the bottom line, if that's kind of, something that...
And I guess
you wanna
another hard
measure.
thing to talk about is access.
Yeah.
The United Nations recognizes play as a right of every child. The Convention on the Rights of the Child explicitly positions play as a fundamental human right. And that all sounds amazing, but how do we deal with the fact that so many people actually cannot play at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really big, heavy question, because I think the reality is, actually, is it listed as an SDG? Probably not, right? I don't think
No.
it's a goal, but
I don't think so.
I find it like closely interconnected in a way. But obviously in some, the barrier to play, I think in some regions is kind of overpowered by necessities like clean water and, gender equality and rights that really matter. So I think it can have a regional flair that's really important to focus on. It's not just like a global statement that everyone should activate their play, because obviously there are social conditions that stop people from embracing that. But you were talking about a beautiful example earlier, right? In Gaza, the circus that's still kind of like
The Free
showcasing-
Gaza Circus,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
like-
really beautiful.
The circus?
Yeah, they continued to run a circus, like amidst rubble, doing a circus with children, which
is
was quite
so
beautiful.
beautiful.
And it's maybe also important to state that it's not solving the problem.
Yes.
You don't solve the problem through play, but you create a counter narrative or an alternative reality that then helps maybe on the other side to solve that problem or get through this incredibly difficult situation that they're
Or I liked what Anna Rose had said. They'd had a conversation with someone at dinner, and that talking about wanting not just to play as like a coping mechanism or a tool or a device for healing, but to have the freedom to play just for play's sake.
Yes.
Which I thought was a
And Rose,
beautiful. Your
colleague sat across the table from me last night, so I was a part of that conversation. And it was fascinating because there were many people from countries where there are crises right now talking about play and how they need it, but it's also not how you in the end probably will solve what they're in right now. So that's a really hard topic to talk about, and I'm glad you're bringing it up here, because I think what equals play in a way is hope. And I was really wondering, is there something that, for everybody who's watching or listening right now, is there an example that you would say, you can do this right now, you can try this out, and it will bring you some hope, no matter where you are, no matter what you're facing right now? Is there something that you can give the listeners, the watchers, the community out there to try?
I mean, I could say that I remember during like pandemic era when I was feeling very overwhelmed, because I felt like my empathy was so open to like the energy of the planet, and I didn't know, everyone I knew lost their jobs and I didn't know what to do, and I wanted to do something to help. And I talked to my friend who's a meditation teacher, and he'd said to me, he was like, well, when you have big feelings about the world, take that into the people the people who are closest to you in your home, your community, and like start just really small with that energy, like if you want to put more love in the world, like kiss someone today, and I feel like with play and being more hopeful, I feel like to start small, like try a more playful choice with your breakfast tomorrow morning. Try like playful conversation at dinner. Take a different route, like things that are small in a playful mindset, and then it's incredible what can open up from that.
You don't have to start like a huge game. You can just
No,
have a
like
different
the World
approach.
Peace Game Edition, which like I would like to try, but we'll start with like a silly conversation between you and I first.
And I think another good one that we popped in the report was based on a meme. I can't remember who shared it years ago, but we popped it as a quote in the report. And it was about this idea that if you could put on some goggles that would make you kind of forget everything you know and go into the grocery store and just be like bedazzled by how incredible the diversity of choices, the branding, the smells, and I think those sorts of moments of not like just going through the motions, but bringing magic into those kind of motions, and then walking into the supermarket or a space like this, and which I think is easy to do in a beautiful museum, because how can you not?
I feel like that constantly here.
This is like a shortcut to getting there.
Yeah.
But I think it's true, leaning in conversations and just like human boring moments that can be, you can kind of bring that spice together yourself with your own agency and your own intention and power.
It's the final stretch of the podcast, and this is almost impossible to do here because of the setting we're in with amazing cameramen who are filming us and putting this out there. But I wonder if there's any questions or comments from the people that are in the room with us, if any of you have big question marks over their head, if you're playing with some thoughts right now and you would like to share them. Is there anybody who would like to share? Sabrina, you're looking like your brain is rattling. Yes.
I'm curious, like, what do you think we could potentially do, one small thing, in the sort of capitalist environment of businesses to get people to imagine a little bit better and play a little bit more?
So Sabrina's question is, how do you bring play into the most of all capitalist environments, the big corporations of this world, the serious boardrooms, the offices, the things where the monster is sitting basically on your desk. Is there any suggestions from your end?
Do you want to go first?
I mean, I can say not just within the boardrooms, but even just like undermining the capitalist mindset, because we were just having this conversation upstairs, is one of the things that many of us bought into is the idea that you vote with your money, and the idea that the best thing we can do for climate change is to buy a different bag, or the best thing we can do for play is to buy a new game. And I think that the idea that it's inside of all of us, and that there is huge, like I say, the algorithm knows you just think different and you're like already influencing the machine, right? Like, I think if you feel like you have the agency, that what you think, what you feel, the conversations that you have, that they matter, whether you're bringing it into like a corporate space or you're talking to like your neighbor at the bodega, like any of those things, I think they matter, is what I would say.
That's a nice answer. I mean, I feel like when you asked that, there were automatic things that came to mind, like how, Google's old school 80-20 rule resulted in like Gmail coming to, there's those ones, but again, play has this dotted line to like, oh, what's it going to do for us? But then for the report, we actually interviewed a clown, because obviously, a champion of what play is.
Yes, great example.
And that was a really interesting interview, because when I was chatting to her, I was really trying to unpick it and think about like how she shows up as a clown and takes it like very serious clown. And I was thinking, I think we're too serious, and this world is very silly. And I think we all walk around in these suits of trying to project that. And I think if corporations could allow that humanity and that silliness to come through in ways that were safe in the structure, because this idea of being buttoned up and being professional, it's amazing, but then we all go home and we are ourselves in front of our partners that are embarrassing, we wear dorky clothes, we do all those human fun things. But I think corporations, we've got this like projection that we have to be one persona and we can't hold the duality that we are, and I think that playfulness is then stripped out of that projection at work. So I would say creating corporations and spaces where we can bring our full selves to is pretty powerful.
More clowns in the boardroom.
Yeah, clown CEO.
I love that example.
We have a couple of those.
There are a couple, but maybe in a different way. Sabrina, does that answer your question? Yeah. I guess, yeah. Are there any other questions from the group here in the room? Any other thoughts or comments that you would like to share? If not, I was just thinking about how we could end on something really playful and silly. Do you have an idea?
We could dance.
No.
Playful, silly. Oh, I've got a good one. Do you have a silly party trick that you can do? Because I have one.
A silly what?
Party trick. An appropriate party
a silly
trick.
Party trick.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. What's yours?
I'm going to do mine. Hang on.
Yay!
For anyone that's audio, this sucks. Okay, we're ready.
I love it.
It's a very serious podcast, by the way.
Ah! Delightful!
What's your?
Oh my gosh, what's my party trick? I feel like it's much more low-key than that. It's just, I'm very, very chatty, so my party trick is like talking to everybody.
You have a way with words. That's your party trick.
That's what we're going to do now. Thank you both so very much, Caitlin and Sarah, with unexpected skills and unexpected play in the podcast here today. And I also want to thank everyone who is here, who took the time to be part of Horizons. We will continue virtually on December 5th, recapping Dubai Future Forum with people and speakers from the community. And I hope you can just reach out to me if you're here, and we invite you to the WhatsApp community so you can follow up and meet the other members. And I want to also especially thank Iman, the curator of the forum, with her team, Abdullah and Dinas from the marketing team, Hassan, Nora, and everybody who is creating this wonderful live podcast studio, which is a first here at the forum, and hopefully the first of many. There are many future podcasters here in the room. And of course, the two of you, this is your applause. Thank you for being part of Horizons.
Thanks.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, guys.